Uh, Hello everyone, welcome. This is Adam from Monterey Bay Kayaks, and glad to have him here today. Adam, please tell us a little bit about your background in the outdoor industry, kayaking,
Okay.
sea kayaking industry.
So I moved here about 15 years ago for schooling. Went to Cal State Monterey. Have a degree in environmental sciences, technology, and policy, as well as psychology. Started out as just a summer job kayaking for the summer. Next thing you know it, I'm running 2 kayak locations. Also had a scuba diving business there for a while too. Became an instructor with that. Just in love with the outdoors. Been an outdoorsman my whole life. Been fishing since I was a little kid. Grew up in Colorado, up in the mountains out of Pagosa Springs, Colorado. So I've been always outdoors, hunting, fishing. Just always been outside.
And why do you folks have why is your kayak shop located here?
So we're located on the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So it's an ideal location to start a kayak business. The business here started in 1985. We were one of the first pioneers in ecotourism. So we started out with a small shop here, and then of course turned into a bigger shop. And then we also opened up another location about 25 minutes north of here in Moss Landing, where there's an estuary, or the Elkhorn Slough is, in the town of Moss Landing.
Can you tell us a little bit about Elkhorn Slough, why you decided to open up a shop there?
Yeah, so the Elkhorn Slough is basically an inland tidal estuary, so it's tidally influenced by the tides. So there is some current there, but it is originally it used to be a part of the Salinas River mouth, and then when the Army Corps of Engineers came through, they blew open where the harbor mouth is now at the town of Moss Landing, and started that influx of saltwater instead of the freshwater river. So that started to bring in a lot of wildlife, such as the otters, the seals, and both of them now use that as a rookery. So you have a lot of baby seals, baby otters in there. It's a safe place for them to feed. It's a safe place for them to, be there without any predators. Also, it's part of the Pacific flight pattern, so you'll get a large influx of birds there, well over a couple hundred different species there a year.
So in other words, a great place to tour on a kayak.
Great place to tour on a kayak.
All right. Does your company have either a vision statement or a mission statement?
So we do have a mission statement. It's basically just we're pioneering ecotourism here in Monterey, and we just want to foster a great community to be educated on what the wildlife is, what we do, and mainly tours and rentals, and just educating the public on the importance of the marine sanctuary in the bay. We don't have a vision statement, but we do have the mission statement.
All right. Well, you brought up a great segue to a question. You talked about being involved in the local community.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand more upon that? What do you do to be involved with the local community?
So we're involved with the local community on a much larger scale. So we do a lot of things for Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is a large educational-based research aquarium. And we try to get as many people out on the bay as possible. So we work with a lot of school districts, and we work with the Monterey County Office of Education. We do highly discounted tours to get a lot of children out on the bay. One issue we have here in California is a lot of people, including in Salinas, have never even seen the ocean, even though they live about 25 to 30 minutes away. So we really try to get those underprivileged communities out to the ocean, educate them into what sanctuary is, protection, environmental stewardship, anything that we could do to basically educate the public on, to show them what it means to have a protected bay, and how the wildlife here is just completely skyrocketed over the past 20 years because of the protections.
Great. And can you tell us what's the most profitable aspect of your business?
The most profitable aspect of our business is definitely not retail. Retail draws the crowds, but it doesn't really make us the big bucks. But the rentals and tours are our number one thing. We have a couple hundred kayaks between the 2 locations. So rentals, getting people out as much as possible. Typically people spend about 2 to 3 hours out on the bay. They come back, we rent it out again. And our tours, all of our guides are experienced naturalists that we do in-house training, and they're all ACA trained, which is the American Canoe Association. So they really know a lot of stuff. We do a lot of in-house training events with the aquarium, Moss Landing Marine Labs, and a lot of other educational things. Like we have our own personal blog where we keep our staff updated on what's happening in the bay. So those are our two big draws and profitable part of the job.
And what do you consider the most successful aspect of your business?
The most successful aspect is basically community outreach. We are well known and established. We've been here since '85. We work with a lot of agencies, so we work with NOAA, we work with Department of Fish and Wildlife, we work with Moss Landing Marine Labs, Sea Otter Savvy. We have a lot of certifications in those aspects, so we really do try to educate the public as much as we possibly can.
And which kind of sounds like what you're most proud about, but do you have anything else that you're proud about your business?
We pioneered ecotourism here in Monterey, so we were the first. And one of the things that we're really proud on is the amount of training we do with our guides. One of the most important things that I'm really proud about here is that we are environmentally friendly. We are green certified, so we do everything, sustainable as much as possible. The financial aspect is always a plus, and we do have a big draw because we have been around since '85. So it is important to state that yes, we do make a lot of money on the rentals and tours, but that's not what we're here for. Mainly, we're here to educate and work with the public and just help out as many agencies as we can.
That's great. And so, what are some of the challenges of owning a small business?
There's a lot of challenges. I'm a general manager. I'm not the owner of the business, but I get to see all the kind of the ins and outs of the business. But there's a lot of challenges. I'm sure we'll bring it up here in a minute, but COVID was a really big challenge for us. The fires in California were a big challenge for us. We had to shut down multiple days due to the smoke advisories and how unhealthy the air was. We have a lot of safety aspects, which is why we have to go through a lot of safety training. Everyone that works here is basically first aid CPR certified. It's a requirement of the job. And of course, the biggest challenge we have here is weather. We have a really unique microclimate here in the Monterey Bay, so it changes a lot. So it's really hard to judge that, and the reports are not always true. So it might say that we have no wind today, and the next thing you know, we have a small craft advisory of 20-25 knot winds. So the weather is one of the most difficult factors of our business. It could influence everything about it. Obviously, if it's storming, we can't be renting out, we can't be having staff here, we can't be making a lot of money. So it's important to note that, in any of the environmental fields or ecotourism or anything like that, weather is the biggest deciding factor in everything that we do.
Okay. You've mentioned some of them, but can you talk about any of your other programs, some of the programs that you run?
So like I said, we do tours and we do rentals. We do a variety of tours. Before COVID, we used to do night tours where we go in to see bioluminescence. So we go into the Elkhorn Slough where there's a high amount of bioluminescence, so zooplankton and stuff like that bioluminesce at night and light up the water. We used to do Point Lobos tours before COVID, Stillwater Cove, which is Pebble Beach. And we do a lot of private instruction, but we are not doing the instruction this year because it is a hands-on approach, so we'd be getting within that social distance. But for the most part, rentals, tours, and retail are the top three things that we do. Okay,
and you've mentioned the pandemic, COVID, numerous times. Can you speak to how the pandemic has affected your business?
So it's affected it both good and bad. So obviously when we were originally hit, we had to shut down for a couple of months until the city and county allowed us to reopen under different circumstances. We had to lay off a lot of staff due to the pandemic, which was a really hurt to the business and all the friends here that worked with them. But we didn't have that kind of flow at first. But then, everyone really wanted to get outside. Everyone wanted to go recreate, get outside, go kayaking, which was a safe thing for people to do. But we had to do it safely, so we set up limits of how many people could come in. We went to reservation only, so you had to have a reservation. We basically clean every single piece of equipment, including the kayak. We sprayed them down with rubbing alcohol after each use. The paddles, rubbing alcohol after each use. Holds on the wetsuits, holds on the gear. Limit the amount of people in the shop, limit the amount of the people in the rental area. The social distancing changed on all of our tours, so we had to make sure people were keeping distances on tours. We had to relearn safety strategies to get people back in the kayak, or rescue situations where you might have to be involved in getting really close to them. We basically had to start over at the pandemic and start from scratch, and also trying to do as much hands-free type things as possible. So we moved from paper waivers to digital waivers, so we're not having to touch people's waivers and stuff like that. So we adapted pretty well. It took some time. Business is very busy on the weekends. But again, we are turning customers away at a certain point because we don't want to go over that cap. Safety is number one priority for me, especially with all my staff. I just want to make sure everybody's safe.
Great. You've talked a lot about this. Maybe you don't have anything more to add, but I have a question about your rental operation. Anything more to add about that?
Rental operation, it's pretty interesting. So we use, we order a lot of kayaks. We use them for a couple years. We sell them in the used sale every October. We buy another fleet. So we refresh our fleet, a portion of our fleet every single year to keep their kayaks updated. All of our fleet is also, we get it basically checked by the Coast Guard Auxiliary. They check all of our vessels every year. We get a little stamp of approval to make sure that they're ocean worthy. It is a lot of work keeping up the rental fleet. Plastics are very reliable. They're very durable, but they can break. So we have a full-time member that just repairs kayaks, and it keeps him pretty busy. But we cycle them through every few years. We'll sell them off and get more, and we just keep that system going on and on and on and every year. But rentals, everyone goes through an orientation. Everyone's offered gear. The gear's included in everything that we do. It's a selling point. Also, with the Monterey Bay, the water temperature here sits around 54, 55 degrees year round. So it is cold, and we are one of the few businesses in the area that, gives people the option of wetsuit or gear to keep them warm. Some places give splash gear and stuff like that, but we find that wetsuits are kind of a necessary thing in the bay. Just in case you do fall in, you're going to want to wish that you had it on because it is cold water. But rentals are, we're doing in, day out, weather dependent, of course. We do change our limits of where people are allowed to paddle depending on those weather conditions. It's a lot of work. We have a lot of boats, but there is a lot of maintenance with them, which is why we try to cycle them out with newer ones as much as we can possibly get. The rentals are definitely an important aspect. But when we started back in '85, we started with a small fleet, and we built up to what we are today. So it's not something you start overnight. It takes a lot of time to build up to. And get the trust of the community, get the trust of your clients, and learn what works and learn what doesn't work.
Great. And what's your target market?
Everyone and anybody. We don't really have a target market. Basically, if you want to get outside and go paddle, we're here for you.
All right. Sounds good. And how do you advertise or market your business?
Basically every way possible, word of mouth. We don't do a lot of commercials. We are in the paper. We do a lot of social media. We have a pretty solid social media platform, but mainly word of mouth is our number one way, and our location. If you're not familiar with Monterey, there's really one main street that goes into town and one main street that goes out, and that's Del Monte Avenue. So basically, when you first come into Monterey, we're one of the first shops next to the beach, on the first beach that usually people stop at. So it's word of mouth. We're also located on a really important part of the bay, which is the bike path. The bike path stretches around the entire peninsula, goes all the way to Marina, and they're actually trying to stretch it to Santa Cruz right now. So we get a lot of foot traffic going through here. So basically our Monterey location is a lot of tourism, and then the Elkhorn Slough location has a lot of tourism, but it's mostly locals because they know there's a lot of wildlife there. So both have kind of a different market per se. But we get a lot of just walk-ins here, people not even looking at, they just see people kayaking, they walk by our shop like, hey, let's go kayaking type of thing.
All right. And do you have any advice for any young people who want to break into the outdoor industry?
If you want to get in the outdoor industry, you got to start somewhere. All of us started somewhere. I started out dive mastering first. I was a dive master for many years through NAUI. Started my own small business there, started kayaking. Put my years in of being a guide, learning that experience, learning what needs to be done and it needs to be taken care of. Staying vigilant, putting those hours in is really what it takes to kind of in this world it's a ladder thing. I don't expect anyone to just jump in and have a big kayaking business or a big outdoor industry business. You got to start somewhere, and you got to learn. I mean, learning is the biggest part of the job. We've been here for a very long time. However, we still learn every day, every year. Something new happens that we have to create. We have a lot of, we have on-land emergency action plans that we continually update. On water emergency action plans, the injury, illness, and prevention plans that we update, a handbook for all of our staff and policies. Things are continually being updated. So it takes time. It takes a lot of time.
All right. And is there anything else you'd like to share with my students?
Outdoor world it's a very, very fulfilling job for people that really want to work outside. I'm extremely stoked that I don't have to be in a cubicle. I'm not inside. I can be inside. And as a general manager, I do spend a lot of time inside. But this is my backyard. This is where I get to work. This is where I get to train my staff. So, you know, you got to stick with it. It's not necessarily the most lucrative, you know, business or something like that. You know, we're not here for money, but we're all happy of what we do. It's about happiness for a lot of the outdoor world industry, and we're happy of what we do. And we get to live in really awesome places like Monterey.
All right. Thank you for your time and wisdom.
Awesome. Thanks.